yes, we are very much interested in the passing ratios because whenever you start a new paper, you try to find out the passing ratio of that paper because you wanted to know that how easy it is to pass. But once again, this is an average passing ratio, so it is different region-wise. So you do not have to get demotivated by looking at the passing ratios. In fact, you have to motivate yourself that whatever the passing ratio is, you have to make sure that you are part of that. Then another area will be why students fail. Yes, this is a common area. What are the areas of weaknesses? Why there are so many students who are unsuccessful in their examination? Then the past paper analysis, and then the revision plan that I'll be sharing with you people. Okay. Now, what the paper F5 is. The paper F5 is performance management, and this is definitely an advanced paper of paper F2. So this is an advance of F2, and this paper is actually designed to create the skills that one should have of a management accountant. So I'll be discussing that later on as well. So you need to have the skills of management accountant, and this paper brings a lot of knowledge from paper F2 because there are almost each and every area except for one area that I'll be telling you later on. Except for that, everything is coming from paper F2. So the basis that is coming is from F2. So it is very important that your basic at F2 level should be very, very good so that you can easily cope up with F5. Okay, so make sure that all the F2 knowledge, I'm not saying that you should revise each and everything, but it is very important that things should be in your mind before you are going for F5, because the basis comes from paper F2. One important thing that I want to make here is the transition from F2. So my dear students, this is very important for you to understand that the examiner expectation from you is very different this time. Examiner expectation is very different because this is not a paper of F2, but this is F5, and in F5 you are tested in a more broader way. Your testing is different. F2 has a different expectation. In F2, you were expected to manipulate the numbers. In F2, you were expected that you can play with the data. In F2, you were expected that you can do the calculations. But my dear friends, this time it's F5, and in F5, it's not just about calculations. To be very frank, you need to have a good grip over the theory. So this F5 tests a balance of calculation and theory. So this is the major change in F2 and F5, that the examiner expects you that you are not only good in calculations, but you do have a good grip over the theoretical areas as well. So I repeat, so this is not just manipulation of data, it's also interpretation of theory. I repeat the word. Interpretation of theory is very important here. Second major difference is the question type being tested in the examination. And what's the question type? Yeah, you all have gone through the F2 paper, and I'm sure you remember that the basic question type was the MCQs that were tested in paper F2. This time in F5, once the major change came in the paper F5, the examining pattern has changed. Now you have MCQs, so that is something a plus for you because you're already used to those MCQs. Plus you have multiple choice questions. Plus you have scenario based MCQs as well, which are known as MTQs. Plus, one thing has also been in part of the F5 syllabus since very long, that is scenario based long questions. Now these long questions are a major change that student feels when he or she comes from F2 to F5. Guys, you have to understand the difference, because we are not used to writing the answers. We are not used to doing logical computations on a worksheet. We are not used to showing clear calculations on a worksheet, because if you just recall your F2 examination, so you must realize that the calculation that you used to do in F2 were a calculation that was some kind of an informal workings which you used to do in any rough sheet, and you just have to find out the correct answer. This time you have to show logical workings in the calculations, and plus you have to write the theory. This theory aspect created a lot of problems for the students in past. Now when the new format didn't came, it was all about long questions. There used to be a time when there were 5 questions, that there was a change, that there were 4 questions in examination, but all were long questions. So the major reason at that time people had was that they were not good in writing the answers. But I think the introduction of MCQs in F5 has reduced this problem. But once again, it is very important that in F2, yes, you had MCQs which were theoretical, but those MCQs were not that difficult. Those MCQs' major objective was to test the concepts. This time, it will be more conceptual and would be scenario based as well. So you need to have a better in-depth understanding of each and everything. Then only you can manage MCQs, scenario based questions, scenario based long questions, and this requires a very good set of skills. Let me tell you very frankly that student who is appearing for F5 need to have a very good balance this time between MCQs, between long questions, between the calculative workings, between interpretation of theory. So it requires a good bunch of skills that you people should possess in F5. So guys, this is a transition that you have to make sure that you have to adopt. It's not just F2 type MCQ based paper, okay? And this is the biggest challenge that student faces when they appear first time for F5. Got it? Okay. Because F5 is the first paper that requires you to write something on the worksheet. Now, moving forward, what your examiner expects you are. Your examiner expectation is that you are a management accountant. Now you need to remember this, that you are a management accountant. And who is a management accountant? Now just make sure that, guys, you are not Peter, you are not someone else with your own names. In F5, you all are management accountant. Just forget your own names. Just remember who you are. Whenever you are going in the examination hall, the examiner is seeing you as a management accountant. That all management accountants are coming to the examination center. Okay, so remember, you are a management accountant. Now, what job role a management accountant has? What major areas a management accountant covers is number 1, the management accountant is part of planning. And this is not a operational planning area. It includes strategic as well. So a management accountant is part of planning. He is part of controlling. He is part of decision making, which is very important for an organization. And one thing that creates a huge difference between F2 and F5 is this one new word coming in F5 is, my friends, performance evaluation. You need to evaluate the performance of the people who are working in the organization. So this is a major difference that comes between F2 and F5. So you need to plan, you need to control, you need to take decisions, and one thing that is added in your job role is performance evaluation. You have to see who is performing good and who is not performing good. Got it, my friends? So remember who you are. You all are management accountants. When you are going in an examination, make sure that you think yourself as a management accountant. Got it? Okay. Now let's discuss the paper structure very quickly. The time duration of the paper is 3 hours 15 minutes. Now I'm sure you know that there is no planning time as such given to you. Now in your examination there used to be a planning time. So you got 15 additional minutes now to solve the paper. The paper is divided into 3 areas. One is section A, section B, section C. Section A is 15 multiple choice questions having a weightage of 2 marks each. Section B comprises of 3 questions and 5 multiple choice questions in each scenario. This is basically a scenario based question. Got it? There will be a short MCQ, short scenario. You will be given with 5 MCQs. You have to find out the answers of that. Then comes 2 questions, 20 marks each, and this is basically long questions that traditionally were tested a lot in the paper. In this section C question, you can expect that you will be given 15% calculation, and you can expect a 50% theoretical area in that as well. One thing is important, that there are 2 20-mark questions, the section C area, that will only come from 4 areas, and I'll be discussing the areas later on. So one area is skipped in section C, and that is advanced costing technique. Once I come to the breakup of the syllabus, you will see one area that is naming as advanced costing technique will not be tested in section C. So advanced costing technique will only be tested in section A and section B, which means the short MCQs or the scenario based MCQs. Got it? Okay. The passing ratios. Yeah. This is a fact that we need to accept. It's something between 30 and 45. And recently, if you see, since 2015, it's between 35 and 40. So if it is actually on an average 35 to 40% the passing ratio of paper F5, and this is a worrying thing. But don't worry, this revision session will bring a big change, and it will help you a lot to pass your examination. Just aim that you will be part of this average 35 to 40% passing ratio. You have to think the way that you are someone who will pass, and will be part of this 35 to 40% passing ratio. Okay. Why student fail? By looking at the passing ratio, a question comes in the mind. Why do people fail? Around 60% of the students fail. What is the reason? So let's quickly skim through the reasons. The first reason is do not read the questions scenario actively. Now, why you cannot is because you don't do the rehearsal before the examination. You just note down the important tips, okay? It is very important that during your practice phase, that is before the examination, you read the scenario very actively. Because we are not at all active while reading the scenarios. You need to underline the things which are important, which you think are important in the scenario. Because reading of scenario is very important for section B type questions and for section C type questions. So the first reason is not read the scenario actively. So make sure you do have to read. Whenever we will be doing a question, I'll give you time for that and you just read the questions very carefully. Number two, when it comes to requirements, we are not being able to understand the requirements very clearly. This is something because of the language problem, I guess, or we do not concentrate. It is very important that you need to understand the question requirements, especially when the question is theoretical one. When the question is a theory-based question, you need to make sure that you do understand what the question is asking for. And I'll give you a very good tip for that once we move on to the theoretical questions, how to understand the question very carefully. The third issue, and this issue comes because first you have attempted F2, that you do not perform calculations that are carefully structured and do not show workings in easy to follow layout. We need to show logical workings. I'm not saying that we have to show each and every working, but yes, we have to show logical working in the examination. Okay? When it comes to writing the answers, the English should be simple and we get into lots of detail. This is a major problem while writing the theoretical answers, my friend, that when we see a topic like activity-based costing, we do not understand what is actually asked in ABC and we write each and everything. So the answer should be to the point in simple English with no difficult words being used, plus you do not have to get into unnecessary details. Make sure your examiner expects to the point answers. I'm talking about theoretical answers in this case, okay? The recent major issue is the theory-based MCQs. Now, once the paper pattern changed recently, this is a challenge that people are facing is the MCQs. My friends, remember, a good concept helps two things. It polishes your calculation, it improves your calculation, it improves the skills of theory as well. A concept is $1 million thing. If you have a concept, you can perform calculations plus your theory would automatically get good. The major reason of the today's student being failed in F5 is they cannot cope up with theory-based MCQs. They are good in calculations, but they are not good in theory-based MCQs. And practice makes perfect. Got it? And the everlasting issue is the time management. Lots of students come to us and they say, that sir, we were not being able to complete the paper. 20 marks left, 10 marks left, 15 marks left. Guys, you have to do proper rehearsals of the examination before you set out for the final one. Just solve 2-3 mocks. If you solve your mocks in a real exam environment, I know that you don't have real exam environment at your homes, but you can create a one. Not exactly, but yes, you can create a one and just practice within 3 hours 15 minutes. I can guarantee if you do it, you will complete your paper on time. Got it? So these are the major issues that what I have figured out in the last 10 years that people are facing. And comes the revision plan. The F5 syllabus is divided into 5 areas. This is the revision that I've done, okay? This is section 1, and this will only be tested as section A and section B type questions. Okay? Short MCQs will be coming from this particular area. This topic includes ABC, life cycle, throughput, environmental, and target costing. Section B, scenario-based MCQs will be tested from this area. And this is the only one area that will not be tested for section C. The rest, all 4, will be tested for A, B, and C. I'm talking about section A, section B, and section C. Got it? Decision making includes linear programming, relevant costing, risk and uncertainty, CVP analysis, and pricing. Variances includes few of the variances that are coming from paper F2 with 3 major subsections: mixed yield, planning operational, sales mix, and quantity variance. The budgeting area, it does not include those budgets that you taught, that were being taught to you in F2, like purchase budget, sales budget, raw material budgets will not be tested. There are budgets like fixed, flexible, incremental, zero-based, rolling, activity-based that will be tested here. And this is one of the areas that examiner plays a lot. This is one of the areas that examiner can test for 20 marks theory. And this is somewhere student gets in trouble a lot because we do not practice how to write. This is the heart of F5. I should say this is the heart of F5 because if this topic is not in F5, there is no F5. Performance management and control. This is an area that is tested every time in the examination. Examiner judge you finally by looking at this particular section. Okay. Now, a very good past paper analysis that will help us to decide how topics are being tested in the examination. And here you have, I'm sure you'll like this. Let's have a good look at the past paper analysis. These are the topics with question names that have been tested in the examination. Examiner has covered each and every area up till now. Topics like ABC are the favorite ones that examiner tests a lot. Throughput accounting, these are the areas that are very much tested in section which are very much tested in section A and section B, which is part of advanced management accounting techniques. Areas like budgets. Yes, budgets have been tested a lot in the examination. Different types of budgets. It also includes learning curves. So budgeting is once again frequently tested area of paper F5. Then comes financial, non-financial indicators, which is part of performance measurement. You can see this is once again a very crucial area that examiner tests very, very frequently. Then comes the areas like variances, different types of variances examiner test. Mixed yield, sometimes planning operational, sometimes sales mix quantity variances. Then other areas of decision making that examiner tests differently, like sometimes they have tested risk and uncertainty, sometimes they test relevant costing, sometimes they test pricing, sometimes they test CVP analysis. So I think you cannot predict accurately what will be coming in your examination. And make sure you do not. Once MCQs have been introduced, it is very important that you do not predict the questions and you cover each and every area, because in these 22 attempts that you can see, almost everything has been tested. Got it? Now, before we start with the first topic, one thing definitely will be coming in your mind is how I'm going to cover up the F5 revision areas. This was a tough question that I had to answer as well, because the syllabus is very big. We cannot cover each and everything in these 15 hours. But yes, we can go through important areas that are frequently tested in the examination, as shown in the previous slide of the past paper analysis. So what I have planned is that we will be working on all those major areas that are frequently tested. We'll be focusing on the skills that are lacking in the students. I'll be giving you examination techniques, tips, how to answer the question. We'll be practicing, we'll be covering conceptual things, because my focus here will be to improve your concepts. I'm sure you must have taken classes in your regular batches somewhere, but my focus is to improve the conceptual understanding, and that counts. It's not about calculations. I'm very loud and clear about it, that it's not about calculations. My friends, it's about the complete set of skills. Calculations, interpretation. Got it? So I'll be focusing on the concepts of all those major topics that have been tested in the past frequently. You need to be patient. Sometimes you'll feel that this is a topic that you know, but be patient. Just stick to this online session, because there will be something that will be new for you. Okay? Try to attend all the 5 days, and I can ensure you, hopefully, that you will learn a lot. I'll give my best to produce best results from you people. These 15 hours will change your life. These 15 hours will bring best in you and will make you successful in F5. Got it? So be with me till these 5 or 6 days. So it's time that we should kick now, and the topic that I'm starting is activity-based costing. Okay. Easily, at least tested 5 times, at least in your examination. Very favorite for the examiner. But a recent change will be tested in section A and section B. But what I'll be doing is that I will be solving a complete question, so that you get the entire knowledge about ABC. And then I'll let you know how it will be tested in MCQs. So you have to listen and understand the change. Got it? Guys, ABC is a technique which is an alternative to absorption costing. A common technique of F2 was absorption. Now, very quickly, let me recap what absorption costing was, and then we'll come to ABC. Okay? Just hold on for a minute. Okay, sorry for the interruption. Now, we were talking about what was absorption that you have studied in F2. Let me give you a quick recap of that. Absorption deals with overheads. Overheads are known as all indirect cost, which includes indirect material, indirect labor, and indirect expenses are known as overheads. In F2, you have been gone through the stages of allocation, in which the overheads were allocated to departments like Department A, Department B, Department C. Once done with allocation, the next thing was apportionment. So overheads were first allocated and then apportionment was done. After that, for example, if this is a production department and this is also a production department, but this is a service department. So after allocation and apportionment, the overheads which were allocated and apportioned to A, B and C, then there was a reapportionment being done from service department to production departments. And why is that? Because service is actually providing services to the production department, so it was important that we should charge the service department cost to production departments. So all overheads then came to production departments, and after that these overheads were absorbed into the product's cost. Now my friends, this absorption of overheads was done through one very important thing that we all know is OAR, which is overhead absorption rate. overhead absorption rate. And how we used to calculate this OAR was through a method budgeted overheads divided by budgeted activity level. Budgeted activity level. Okay. Now this budgeted activity level mainly included three things. One, direct labor hour. Number two, machine hours. Number three, units. Okay, so this was all about ABC, sorry, absorption costing. This entire diagram showed you what F2 absorption was. That we allocate, we do apportionment, we do reapportionment, then we absorb. The way we absorb is through OAR. That OAR includes budgeted activity level, and that budgeted activity level includes three activity levels, which are mainly direct labor, number of units, and machine hours. Now, my dear friends, these three measures are known as, I'm giving one word to these three, so remember the word. These three are known as production related activity level. So make sure you do remember this word, production related activity level. So whenever I'm going to ask you, absorption absorbs on the basis of what? So your answer would be production related activity levels. Got it? So this is absorption costing. It absorbs on production related. Now why we call these three production related? Because these are directly connected to production. Listen this. If labor hours or machine hours increases, so the units will also increase. That is why we call them production related. Directly, units will increase. Okay? This is absorption for you in one slide. Now comes ABC. ABC is an alternative method of absorbing overheads. And ABC uses two major things. Cost pools are also known as activities, and cost drivers, which are known as activity levels. So ABC also absorbs overheads. Now the difference is very important to understand. Cost pools are basically known as activities which consumes the resources that results in cost. Cost drivers is any factor, is any reason because of which the overhead cost increases or decreases. So this is any factor that causes a cost to increase or decrease. Any factor which causes a cost to increase or decrease. Okay? Now, let me give you a few examples here. These are different types of activities which you will see in ABC. And what ABC does is that ABC tries to find the realistic activity levels. Tries to find the realistic activity levels. Are you getting my point? So, if there is a machine related overhead, will be absorbed on the basis of number of machine hours. If its indirect labor cost will be absorbed on the basis of labor hours. If the activity is of setup, the cost driver will be number of setups. Now, my dear friends, listen, this is very important. Number of setups increases, the setup cost will increase. So this is a cost driver. Number of setups changes the number of setups. Order processing, cost driver, number of orders processed. Packing cost, number of packing orders. Inspections, number of inspections done. Handling cost, number of times handled. Dispatching cost, number of times dispatches made. Getting my friend? Now let me highlight a very important conceptual point. And what's that? My dear friends, ABC and absorption are really good friends. And you'll be shocked to hear this. Yes, they are very good friends. But the clash came in the treatment of overheads. Their fight began on overheads. On overheads, their fight started. Dear friends, absorption costing, as I told you, absorption costing absorbs on the basis of production related activity levels. Got it? And what are production related? Machine hours, labor hours, number of units. But when it comes to ABC, ABC has a different viewpoint. And what's that? ABC absorbs overheads on the basis of both. Sir, what you mean by both? Just have a look. These two are the ones that absorption was also using. And these are known as production related. Okay, guys? But from setups till dispatches made, these are basically transaction based cost drivers, transaction based activity levels, or I should say non-production related. I'm sure you can see it clearly. So these are non-production related. And why non-production? Because they depend on setups. They depend on setups. They depend on packing. So these are known as non-production related activity levels. But the machine hour and labor hours was production related. So this is a major difference, my friend, between ABC and absorption. That is, ABC uses both production and non-production. I'll be highlighting this later on when we move towards the first past labor question. So just remember this basic difference. ABC uses both production, non-production. Absorption uses just what? Production. Are you with me, guys? A quick yes from everyone. Just to confirm, are people with me? Quick yes. I need quick yes. Come on. Yes, yes, yes. Quick yes. Perfect. Is everything clear? Sound, voice, picture. Is everything perfect? Great. Great response. Keep it up. So let's start. Keeping this difference in mind, ABC uses both. Absorption just uses one. Before we start with the first past paper, I just want to recap the steps of using ABC. And what are these steps? The steps are: ABC identifies cost pools, then the cost drivers, then calculates the absorption rate, and then absorbs into the product. This rate is calculated for both, using both, in fact, I should say, using both production related and non-production related activity levels. So the OAR includes both production related and non-production. Got it, everyone? So it's time for the first past paper, and let's start with the first past paper. There are few documents that are attached, so you can just see your panel and you can open all those documents. Right now, we will be starting with the first past paper question, that is June 2014. Okay, so here we have the first past paper question that we will be starting right now. Is a very good question. Duff company, tested in June 14. I'm sure there will be many people who have already gone through this question, but once again, let's recap and try to improve the concepts. So if you look here, it has two major requirements that we will be covering right now. First is you need to calculate the budgeted full production cost per unit of each product using current method of absorption costing. Okay, current method of absorption costing. And what's the next requirement is that you have to calculate the same budgeted full production cost, this time using ABC costing. ABC has 11 marks, absorption has 3 marks. But don't go over these marking scheme now. Let it be very clear in your minds that, my friend, this now will be tested in terms of MCQ. So what we'll be doing is that we will first recap the entire calculation through this question, and then I'll discuss how it will be tested in the exam for MCQs now. Okay, so first let's recap the calculation. I'm sure you got my plan. The plan is very simple. Let's first practice the entire question and then let's see how now it will be tested in MCQs. Got it? Now you have a quick 2 minutes to read the question. Okay, I'm sure you can see the question on my screen as well, and if you can arrange on your own, so it will be good as well. I'm trying to fix this in the screen so that you can easily read the entire question. Yes, it is done. Your time starts now. You have 2 minutes. Now let's start with the question. By looking at the details of the question, there are three products, X, Y, Z, having units of 20, 16 and 22 respectively. You have a per unit cost given here of direct material and direct labor. These are the overheads and have been broken into 4 activities. These details relate to activity levels. Okay. First part is to work out using absorption costing. You need to work out the per unit cost, I guess. Okay. We need to work out the per unit cost here. So let's now do this through a worksheet. Okay, now let's start with the solution. First, I need to work out the cost per unit using absorption costing. Okay, so you have a good look at the details, and you can see the per unit costs are given to me, and I've also been provided with the rate per hour of labor. Okay, so there are three products, X, Y, Z. Direct material per unit, direct labor per unit, 25, 28, 22, 30, 36, 24, 24. Okay. Now these are the two simple things given to you. Now it's turn for overheads per unit that you need to absorb here. Because now this will not be tested in terms of long questions, so we are not concerned about how to show the calculations. That I'll teach you separately for the areas that are calculated and will be tested in section C. Okay. So let's calculate the OAR here, and let's see what the OAR figure is coming right now. So the OAR will calculate the overhead is 13,77,400 divided by, we need to absorb this on the basis of what? And that is stated in the question, that we need to absorb this on the basis, and the basis is given to us. The company is using absorption costing, and it is absorbing on the basis of labor hours. Okay, so absorption uses the labor hours. So what I need to do is I need to calculate the labor hours here. Done? So how will I calculate the labor hours? Now, if you look here, the question has given you rate of 12 per hour. You need to work out the hours per unit by using the cost per unit. This is cost per unit. So you divide cost, you take cost per unit and divide it by with the rate per hour. So you will get hours per unit. This is how we'll work out the labor hours. Okay. X, Y, Z. And it's 30, divided by 12. It's 36 divided by 12, and it's 24 divided by 12. So you will get the labor hours per unit, and the hours per unit will be 2.5, 3, 2. You multiply these with the number of units, and the units given to you in the question are 20,000. Second, 16,000. Third, 22,000. So if you multiply these with the units, so you get a total labor hours of 1,42,000. Okay. So use these labor hours, 142,000. So what is the OAR? It's 9.7 per labor hour. Got it, everyone? Are the workings clear here? Done? Okay. So you got 9.7 per labor hour. Now let's absorb it. 9.7 multiplied by 2.5. The hours per unit given to you. And the figure here will be 24.25, 29.1, 19.4. Once again, 9.7 per labor hour, and the hours used are 2. 9.7 multiplied by hours 3. Is this clear, everyone? Are you with me? So the cost per unit now came is 79.25, 93.1, 65.4. This is your part A, done using absorption costing. Got it? Now guys, let's move on to the next area, that is the part B. Any questions, anyone? Is everything okay? Okay, you don't get the OAR part. Let me explain it again. Just hold on for a minute, please. Okay.
इनसे कहें कि जो ये कंप्लेन दे रहे हैं तो आप वर्बली कह दें कि आप प्लीज सेशन को रीजॉइन करें, साइन ऑफ करके.
Okay. Now you can hear my voice, I'm sure. Everyone, is everything clear now? A quick yes, please. Okay, now you can. Perfect. So these are the working of absorption costing, and I'm sure you don't have any question here. I just explained very quickly that how we worked out OER. The way was very simple. We were given with the labor hours per unit, labor cost per unit. We divided that with the rate per hour. We got hours per unit, and we multiplied that with the number of units. We just added up all. We got the total labor hours of 142, and on the basis of 142, then we actually absorb the overheads. Now, let's come to the ABC part. Same three products X, Y, Z. What will come here will be same direct material, direct labor. We'll just copy those two figures again that we worked, that we wrote in absorption, because there is no change in the material and labor. The fight of ABC absorption starts from overheads. Okay. Now comes the overheads. Okay. Now let's work out the overheads using ABC costing. You need to understand the basis of absorption here. And what are the bases? If you look here, so the question says, one question is there times when we don't use labor hours basis Y? Actually, I need to see the question here because I cannot comment before looking at the question. There must be something given in the paper, obviously. There may be that you had the question asked for some other basis to use. That's why you were not required to use labor hours. But right now in this Duff company question, if you look at the paragraph, it was clearly mentioned that you have to use the labor hours. Okay. Now coming back to the question here, for ABC, just have a look at the cost drivers given here. Machine setup cost will be absorbed on the basis of number of batches. Material ordering cost will be absorbed on the basis of number of purchase orders. Machine running cost will be absorbed on the basis of number of machine hours. General facility cost will be absorbed on the basis of number of machine hours. Okay, now my friend, the biggest difference between ABC and absorption is that ABC breaks the overheads. Absorption does not break the overhead. Okay. ABC breaks the overhead into cost pools. Now, if you look here, there are 4 cost pools mentioned here. One is machine setup. This is first activity that resulted in overheads. Second was ordering cost. That is second activity. Third is machine running cost. This is the third activity which resulted in overheads. And fourth is general facility cost, which resulted in overhead. So there were 4 activities that resulted in the overheads of 1.377400. So guys, the first difference that ABC creates is it breaks the overheads into cost pools. And then what it does, it tries to find a cost driver for a cost pool, a realistic cost driver. Being realistic is very important here, because this is what absorption was not doing, and I emphasize on this once I'm done with the calculations. Okay, so there are 4 cost pools, and for each cost pool we are given with the cost drivers. Now we need to work out the cost drivers. We are provided with the batch size. This is batch size, which means how many units will produce in one batch. This is not number of batches. Mind you, this is not number of batches. Guys, Second is number of purchase orders per batch. Once again, this is not number of purchase orders. It represents purchase orders per batch. Then machine hours per unit. Got it? So looking at the basis of cost drivers, we need to work out proper cost drivers here. And let's now work out. Once I'm done with the calculations, I'll take up the questions. So be patient till that time. The biggest difference between ABC and absorption is that absorption breaks the overheads into cost pools. It's 1377, 400 will be broken down into 4 cost pools. And the cost pools are given to you. First is the setup cost, second is the ordering cost, third is the running cost, fourth is the general facility cost. So these are the cost pools, which are also known as activities. So let's break these cost pools and let's write the relevant numbers which are given to us in the question. And what are the numbers? Setup cost is 2,80,000. Ordering cost is 316,000, and machine cost, running cost is 4,20,000, and general facility cost is 361,400. Is this clear, everyone? Done? Now for every cost pool, I'll find a cost driver. So for setup cost, I need what? Number of batches. Number of batches. Take it? Okay. So how will I work out number of batches here? So what I need to do for that? For number of batches, let's work out here number of batches. Number of batches X, Y, Z. Y, Z. Okay. Now let's work out the number of batches here. How will we do this? First, write the units. The units are given to us, and that are 20,000, 16,000, 22,000 divided by batch size. So what's the batch size? Is given to us in the question. 500 units are produced per batch of X, 800 units per batch for Y, 400 units per batch for Z. This will give us number of batches. Make sense? If one batch produces 500 units, if you need to work out if you need to produce 20,000 units, how many batches will you require then? Will be worked out, and the number of batches will be 40 for X, 20 for Y, 55 for Z. These are number of batches. Just have a good look at the calculation. You are provided with batch size and you needed number of batches. Okay, so you got it, number of batches. So now what you need to do, just add all three. It will be total of 115. Just take 115 figure to calculate the OAR. 115, and you'll get the OAR here, and the OAR will be 2434.78 per batch. Just have a good look at the calculation. I'm waiting. Okay, So this is how we worked out the batch size, number of batches, and we worked out the OAR of setup. Then comes the ordering cost. So ordering cost requires number of purchase orders, okay? And what information we are provided is number of purchase orders per batch. So this is not sufficient here, my friend. So what we need to do, we need to multiply these with purchase orders per batch. Per batch requires how many purchase order? For X it requires 4, for Y it requires 5, and for Z it requires 4. If you multiply the purchase orders per batch with the number of batches, so my friend, you get number of purchase orders altogether for all the units, and the total is 480. Got it, everyone? So this is how we're going to work for number of batches. Sorry, number of purchase orders. Okay, any question? I'm sure this too must be clear here. Now, let's use this 480 here and work out the OAR. And the OAR now will be 858.33 per order. Done. Now, what about the running cost and general facility cost? Both are being absorbed using a same basis of machine hours. So why not do one thing? Let's combine these two because the basis is same, and let's calculate a combined OAR of these two because the basis is same. If the basis is same, I can do this. I have this option that I can combine the machine running and facility together. Will save my time. Okay? So I am adding these two and calculating one OAR for these two because the basis is same here. Okay? So let me write here. If I add these two, the total will be 420, 361, 400, 781, 400 divided by the machine hours. I'm adding these two, okay, because the basis of these two are same. So what I need to do now, I need to work out the machine hours total. So let's calculate the machine hours total. I have been provided with the machine hours per unit, and the machine hours per unit are 1.5, 1.25 and 1.4. Let's multiply these with the number of units. 20,000, 22,000 and 16,000, if I'm not wrong. No, it's 16,000 here and 22,000 here. Okay, multiply, you get the machine hours in total. $30,000, 20,000, 30,800. The total is 80,800. Any question, anyone? Is this fine? 80,000 hours. Okay. So let's now use this 80,000 for both facility, general facility and the running cost, and we'll get a combined OAR of 9.67 per hour. So my dear friends, these are the workings of OAR that we performed here. Using these OARs, now I will be absorbing the overheads got it? So now let's absorb. Any question in the workings of OAR? Okay, now it's time to absorb. So let's do one thing. We'll just directly put up the answers here and let's absorb it, and then directly let's write the answers. Now the OARs X, Y and Z. I'm showing you the workings. First is setup cost, then ordering cost, then you have running cost plus general facility cost, because we have combined these two. Okay, so let's absorb for machine setup cost. So what are the number of batches given to us? So the number of batches are 40. Okay, and what is the OAR that we worked out is this one. So 40 multiplied by 2434.78, we'll get a figure of 97,391. Got it? Same you'll do for Y. The number of batches for Y are 20 multiplied by 2434.78. Then the batches for Z are 55 multiplied by 2434.78. Okay, so this is how you're going to work for setup cost. Now comes the ordering cost. How many orders X is using actually? So the X is using 160 orders here. 160 multiplied by, what is the OAR? 658.33 is the OAR. You can see here, this is the OAR. Okay. So the figures are 105,333 for number 2, 100 multiplied by 658.33. For Z it's 220 multiplied by 658.33. The last two will be done combined. The machine hours for X we worked out are 30,000 multiplied by the OAR 9.67. The figure is 290,100. 290,100. Got it, everyone? Is this clear? Okay. For Y, the hours are 20,000 multiplied by 9.67. For Z, the hours are 30,800 multiplied by 9.67. Done. So once you get the total of 3, and the total is 492,824 for X, For Y, it's 307,929. For Z, it's 576,583. You just need to divide these, because these are the total overheads being charged. You need to divide these with the number of units. So to make and bring this to per unit, 20,000 units, 16,000 units, and 22,000 units. So you will get overhead per unit of 24.64, 19.25, 26.21. Now guys, these are the workings. If you have any issue in any working, just let me know. I'm making it easier for you so that you can see the entire workings. Got it, everyone? Yeah. Now let's take up the questions here, if you have any. Yes, please. I did it separately for the last two as well. Come on, a quick yes from everyone. A quick yes. How did you get 30,000? 30,000? I never got 30,000 here. Where is that figure? 30,000. Okay, where is 30,000? Let me see. It's 30,800 actually. Okay, these 30,000. Okay, these are machine hours. You will multiply with machine hours because the basis of absorption is machine hours. So 30,000 multiplied by 9.67. Okay. So guys, first you need to work out the OAR. This is what I did here. and let me very carefully tell you and clearly tell you that what ABC is doing different to absorption. ABC is breaking the overheads into cost pools. This is the first difference. You have to learn this on your tips, okay? The first difference. Be with me, everyone. Stop writing. Just listen what I'm saying. Absorption is not breaking the overheads. Not breaking, okay? And ABC is breaking the overheads. First difference. ABC breaks, absorption do not breaks. ABC breaks, absorption do not breaks, okay? Absorption is absorbing overheads on the basis of labor hours. Labor hours. And frankly speaking, none of these cost pools actually have any connection with labor hours. Setup, no connection. Ordering cost, no connection. General facility, running cost, no connection. Absorption is using on the basis of labor, absorbing on the basis of labor hours, which has no connection at all with all of these cost pools. So this is not a right basis. What ABC did, it found out realistic cost driver. Setup based on number of setups, a realistic one. Ordering cost based on number of orders, realistic one. These two, running cost depends on machine hours. The more the machine hours, the more will be the running cost. Makes sense. A realistic basis and general facility. So what is different? The second difference is correct basis for every cost pool cost driver is being used by ABC, not by absorption. Got it, everyone? Third major difference. Be with me. Absorption costing is using production related only. This is where the fight starts. Production related only. Okay? ABC is using both. My friend, both. Just have a look here. ABC used machine hours. Machine hours is production related. Okay, we got it. But on the other hand, it used PO, purchase orders and batches, which are non-production related. So what's the conclusion in our mind? That ABC uses both production and non-production. Production and non-production. This is proved here. And absorption uses only production. So on your tips, there are three logical points. Learn it. Number one, do not break overheads is absorption. ABC break overheads. The first difference. Got it? Difference two. Absorption do not find a proper cost driver. ABC finds a proper cost driver. Links cost pool with cost driver. Got it? Third, absorption absorbs on the basis of production related activity levels. ABC uses both production and non-production. Three differences and you're done with ABC absorption. So remember these three. I'll ask you in the tomorrow's class as well. What are the three main factors, three main differences? Break the overhead, cost pool, cost drivers, realistic ones, production and non-production. Got it? So now let's bring these figures to complete the cost. $24.64, $19.25, $26.21, let's try the total, and the per unit is 79.64, 83.25, 72.21. Got it, everyone? So this is as per ABC and this was as per absorption. So any questions? Okay, I'll repeat the factor. Okay, let me repeat the first factor here. The first difference is one breaks the overhead, second does not. Second is one uses cost drivers for each cost pool, that is ABC. The second does not. The second just absorbs the overhead on the basis of non-realistic basis. Third is one uses production, non-production both, and absorption uses only production. Okay, so these are the three differences: breaking of overheads, realistic cost drivers, using both production and non-production. Guys, any other question? Done? Is this all clear? Yeah. When the cost is different, so yes, the price will be different. Okay. Cost will have an impact on price. If it's markup basis, so yes. Now, let's move on to the next thing. Now, how about this will be tested in MCQs? Because this will come in MCQs. So what will be the way of examination in MCQs? Let me explain you. Now, what the examiner will do now will be that examiner will ask you, for example, to calculate the overhead cost. Let me change the color here. The overhead cost for Z only using absorption. So you just have to work out for Z overhead cost then in an MCQ. You don't have to show each and every working there. Okay? This is how it will be tested in MCQs. For example, the question might ask you to calculate the cost per unit of X. So what you have to do? You just have to do the calculation of X cost per unit. And remember, no workings in MCQs that you have to show. It's just the calculation that you can do on your rough sheets and on your calculators, and you can write the answer. In fact, you will select the correct answer. You'll be given 4 options. You need to select one. Got it? Same might be a possibility that examiner might ask you to calculate, for example, the OARs. You need to work out the OARs. So you just work out the OARs, or the examiner might ask you to calculate the overhead cost for Z. So you have to do the working Z overhead cost per unit. So this is how MCQs will be tested now. You don't have to solve the entire question here. Might be the question might ask you calculate the total cost charged to X in for setup. So you have to calculate the setup cost for X only. So my friends, out of the 4 steps, the question will be asking any of the steps. So steps are cost pool, cost drivers, OAR, and absorb. Got it? Now, I am writing here just for you the differences. You can copy these points. The difference between ABC and absorption. Difference 1. Break the overhead, and you know absorption will not break. ABC will break. Cost pools and cost drivers. Realistic, you know ABC does use, absorption does not. Number 3. Production and non-production. You know ABC does use production, non-production both, absorption does not. So this is very important, the major difference. I'm sure this must have helped you. You can work out the question after the webinar as well. And I'll be telling you how P would be doing the interaction till the examination. I'll give you support till the end. You'll get complete support from my end. It's not just once the webinar gets ended. I will be supporting you through WhatsApp. So we will be in touch through WhatsApp. I'll be sharing my numbers pretty soon today, and you would just send me a message and we will be creating a group sort of, and on that I'll be dealing with all your queries, all your problems during these 5 days when webinar is not conducted, plus after the webinar gets ended. So the support will be till the end, till the examination. I'll help you out to pass the paper, okay? So this is the reference. Now, my friend, let's come back to the slides and have a look here. My point of breaking the overheads is that, if you look here, ABC is breaking the overhead into cost pools, okay? And absorption is not breaking. It's taking the total figure for calculating OIR. But ABC is breaking into cost pools. This is the point. Got it? Now let's come back to the slides and have a look. Okay, now the advantages of ABC. There are 4 points that you need to remember. First is ABC leads to fair allocation. And why it was fair? It was fair because it used cost pools and realistic cost drivers. It didn't absorb on the basis of labor hours, because labor hours had no connection with the overheads. So it used a fair basis. Setup was absorbed on the basis of number of setups. That is fair. So that's why the cost that came through ABC, the overhead cost and the cost per unit, was more realistic one, and this realistic will have an impact on the selling price as well. Remember, is the company is using markup, so incorrect cost will lead to incorrect markup, that will lead to incorrect price. So a correct cost will lead to a correct markup, that will lead to a correct price. Got it? So it leads to fair allocation. In machine-based environment, which is nowadays the case, it's a machine-based environment, because in machine-based environment, the overheads are very much significant. Okay, so ABC is a good way of absorbing overheads, much more realistic, especially in machine-based environment where overheads are significant. Provide opportunity to control cost. Yes, it provides a huge opportunity to control cost, and how it does. In ABC, you have the entire breakup in front of you. Let me give you a quick example. And that is, for example, if you reduce the number of batches, if you reduce the number of batches, your setup cost will go down. So this is how you can control the cost. Reduce the number of batches, setup cost will automatically go down. Done? So it provides a good opportunity to control cost, because you have the cost drivers. If you increase the cost drivers, the cost will increase. If you reduce the cost drivers, the cost will go down. Last, it covers all the overheads, that is both production and non-production. So there are 4 advantages that you need to remember. fair allocation, machine-based environment, it is usable, provides a good opportunity to control cost and covers the entire overheads, not just production. Because I'm sure you must have learned in F2 that absorption costing absorbs production cost. Okay, it absorbs the production cost into the inventory cost. Okay, so it absorbs both production and non-production. But what are the flaws? Every technique has some flaws, and ABC also has 5 flaws. The people who do not believe in ABC, the people who are against ABC, says that ABC is time consuming. Why? Because it requires cost pools and cost drivers identification. This is a fact. It is time consuming. Number 2, it says that it requires a realistic relationship between cost pools and cost drivers. Yes, setup, number of setups, ordering cost, number of purchase orders. It requires a realistic relationship, which is important here. Sorry. If you don't find realistic relationship, then it's ABC is of no use. So once again, that leads to time consuming again. Number 3, ABC will not be beneficial. It will not be beneficial when overheads are number 1, production related. If overheads are production related, my friend, ABC is not useful. Now, if you say why, because if overheads are production related, then it's better to use absorption. Why? Because absorption uses production related activity levels. So if overheads pertain to production, use absorption, because the basis used by absorption is production related. So if overheads are production related, it's better to use absorption. Number 2, if overheads are small in proportion, small means insignificant, then again it's better to use absorption. No need to go for ABC. Got it, everyone? Done. So when ABC is not useful, when overheads are insignificant or small in proportion. Next is ABC requires different cost accounting records, because in ABC information you require is different one. You need information for cost pool and cost drivers, so the information required is different one. And the last is costs may exceed benefits of operating ABC. Cost of operating ABC if is more than the benefits, then it's not useful to use ABC. So the people who are against ABC says ABC has 5 issues. The people who believe in ABC says ABC has 4 advantages. Dear friends, the steps of ABC are cost pool, cost driver, OAR and absorb. And ABC is an alternative to absorption costing. ABC uses much more realistic basis. There are 3 basic differences that you need to remember. One breaks the overhead, second does not. One uses realistic cost drivers for cost pool, the other do not. One uses production and non-production, the other just uses production. I'm sure this is clear to you. For any questions, you can contact me once I will provide you the details. Let's take a 5-minute short break because we are short of time. So I'm just giving you a short break for 5 minutes, and after that I'll be starting a very important topic, that is throughput accounting. So, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your break. A good cup of coffee or tea have refreshed you. So now the next assignment, the challenge we have is throughput accounting. Yes, people do fail, and with throughput accounting, don't know why, but let's make it easier for you, and let's focus on very important concepts. Mind you, the theoretical MCQs of throughput are difficult. Requires a good knowledge of theory that I will try to convey and try to communicate all those issues. Now, there is a rare possibility. I just want to take your consent. Officially, the webinar for today should be ended at 1 Pakistan time. But if required, so I might take 15-20 minutes more if you people don't have any issue, because I'm not sure how many have the same local time right now. Might be in different countries, people might have different time. So if you don't have any issue, I might take 15-20 minutes. I need a quick answer from you people so that I can decide what I have to do. Come on, just give me a quick feedback. Any problems, anyone? Yeah, definitely it is for your benefit. I'll try to wind up till 1, but just to be on safe side, okay? I'll share the question resources, don't worry, I'll guide you completely. Now, from today, I'm with you people till your examination, so don't worry. Okay, now let's start. So, throughput accounting. Throughput accounting is basically a concept that came to resolve a problem which was identified by an American theory, which is theory of constraint. According to theory of constraint, there is at least one limiting factor that limits the organization ability to maximize profit. So according to this theory, there is one limiting factor, or you can call this bottleneck resource, or you can call this a constraint. All three mean same. According to this theory, there is one limiting factor, at least one, which can affect the ability of the organization to maximize profits. Now, my friend, limiting factor could be labor hours, for example, could be machine hours shortage, for example, could be a material shortage, for example. It could be anything, labor, material, machine hours, which can affect the organization's ability to maximize the profit. Now, what are the solutions to that? There are two solutions. One is a long-term solution and that is to eliminate the limiting factor. Just finish the limiting factor. Eliminate it. Let me give you one example. If you have labor hours shortage, okay? If you have labor hours shortage, then hire new labor. If you have machine hours shortage, buy new machine. If you have material shortage, buy new material. Buy alternative material. So eliminate the limiting factor or the bottleneck resource. But remember, my friends, this elimination will lead to another limiting factor. According to this theory, if you eliminate one, for example, if you have labor hour shortage, you brought new labor, but once you brought new labor, then there would be another limiting factor that would come in front of the organization that would limit the organization profitability, and that will be, for example, material being getting short. For example, you have restricted machine hours then. So elimination of one will give rise to another limiting factor. But this is a long-term solution and an ongoing activity. If one goes down, then second becomes the limiting factor. Got it? A long-run solution. What is a short-run solution? Throughput accounting. Use the technique of throughput accounting, which is the short-run solution. In short run, do not eliminate the limiting factor, but deal with the limiting factor, and the technique to deal with limiting factor is, my dear management accountants, is throughput accounting. Remember who you are. You all are management accountants, okay? So dear management accountants, to deal with limiting factor, the technique is throughput accounting. So what is throughput? It has three concepts. Very, very close to marginal costing, but this is not marginal costing. It has some different concepts to marginal costing. And let me first highlight. Throughput is sales minus variable cost is throughput. Now, in marginal costing, variable cost was direct material, okay? Direct material, labor, variable overheads. Got it? Throughput says that material is the only variable cost. Is the only variable cost. According to throughput, labor is not a variable cost, and throughput classifies, listen very carefully, throughput classifies labor under the heading of operating expenses, and I'll explain you what operating expense is. So it classifies labor as an operating expense, plus it also classifies variable overhead as an operating expense. So my friends, so my dear management accountants, throughput says selling price minus variable cost is throughput, and in throughput it is assumed that material is the only variable cost. Okay, now number 2, operating expenses. We'll discuss what operating expenses mean, but it classifies labor and variable overheads as part of operating expense. Got it? So in throughput, the only variable cost is of what, guys? Material. Only material. Got it? Okay. Now, who I already mentioned, labor and variable overheads, which traditionally were part of variable overheads, were part of variable cost in marginal costing. But in throughput, they are not part of variable cost. They are part of operating expenses, which includes labor, variable and fixed overheads. Fixed overheads. So my dear friends, throughput accounting says that operating expenses includes 3 things: labor, variable and fixed overheads, and all these 3 are assumed to be fixed in nature. So throughput assumes, this is just the assumption of throughput, which is against marginal costing principles, and it says that the only variable cost is of material and the other, that is labor, variable overheads and fixed overheads, are part of operating expenses. And remember, it is a production fixed cost, which means variable production overheads only will come here and fixed production overheads only will come here. Nothing more than that. Variable production overheads will come here and fixed production overheads will come here. So second concept principle of throughput is that it assumes that labor, variable production, fixed production are all part of operating expenses and are assumed to be fixed in nature. Done? Okay. We'll discuss later on what the inventory concept is. This is very important, again, theoretically. Got it? Let's, using the 2 principles, let's move towards the calculation. Remember what I told you, material is the only variable cost and operating expenses includes labor, variable overheads and fixed overheads. Now, what is being tested in the examination regarding throughput is 2 things. 1, throughput accounting ratio is tested. 2nd, multi-product decision making is tested in throughput accounting ratio. So first calculation is throughput accounting ratio. We'll start with, and what throughput accounting ratio is. Throughput accounting ratio has a formula. This is the formula of throughput accounting ratio. The formula is throughput per limiting factor hour. In simple terms, it is also known as return per hour. It is also known as return per hour. Throughput per hour or return per hour means same. Operating expense per hour of limiting factor is also known as cost per hour. Fixed cost per hour. Okay? Because operating expense is a fixed cost. So throughput accounting ratio is basically throughput per hour divided by cost per hour. So how we need to work out the numerator here? So the numerator is worked out using this formula, which is throughput per unit divided by limiting factor hours per unit. Now this is very important. You need to identify the limiting factor in every question. Before you start a question, my friends, you need to figure out the limiting factor. Either the limiting factor is given in the question or it will not be given. If it is given, so you are lucky. If it is not, then you have to figure out. Okay? So limiting factor is important, and not just limiting factor, in fact, the most limiting factor. Now, for example, if company has 3 machines, 3 processes, so you need to find out most limiting factor machine, the process which is the most biggest limiting factor for the organization, that you have to figure out. Okay. Then how to find out the numerator, sorry, the denominator is through this formula. Total operating expenses, these are the ones that are fixed in nature, divide by, once again, limiting factor, but this time the total hours of the limiting factor. This time the total hours of the limiting factor that you have to use here. So it is very important to identify the most limiting factor, because you require hours per unit of that and you require total hours of that. Did you got it, guys? So this is the formula through which we will be working out the things, and then we'll come to the second part of the calculation. Remember, I'm starting with the past paper question, and before I start, I need to find out, the first thing while reading the question is that I need to find out what is the limiting factor. Plus, remember, variable cost is only of material and labor, and variable overheads will be assumed to be fixed in nature. So it's time for the past papers. Let's start with one more past paper, and that is June 2011 Thin Co. Now a quick 2 minutes to read the question, okay? This is a service sector question. What I've recently seen, that student at F5 level struggle when the question comes for a service industry. An examiner has recently used service industry based questions a lot in ABC as well, in Throughput as well, in target costing as well, okay? So don't be hesitant. It's just the different nature of the work. The basics and the logics will remain same, okay friends? Now, very quickly, just read this scenario. And remember, before you start, just try to find out the most limiting factor. Either it will be given or it will not be given. You have to find out. Got it? The first thing that you need to remember. Number 2, while reading the question, find out the variable cost, which is only material in throughput accounting, okay? Third, the operating expenses, which includes labor, variable overheads, and fixed overheads. Start. Okay, now this is a private hospital. Okay, and it offers 3 types of surgical procedures. known as A, B, and C. Now, if it would have been a manufacturing company, so product names would be mentioned here. So in a service industry, the major difference is that there is no products, but the services. So there are 3 services, like 3 products in a manufacturing company, and the services are A, B, and C, 3 surgical procedures. Okay. All patients go through a 5-step process. Now these are 5 processes. Listen, what is limiting factor? In these 5, one would be the limiting factor. Okay, one would be the limiting factor. The most biggest limiting factor that does not allow the organization to achieve its objective. Got it? It could be anyone. Either step 1, 2, 4, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So these are the steps that patient goes through. Price is given to you. Selling prices are these 3. I'm highlighting the things that so that once I start the calculation, you don't have any issue. The only material costs, now this is the variable cost, are 3. Injections, anesthesia, dressing. These are the only material costs, only variable costs for throughput accounting. There are 5 members employed. Each, normally people do ignore the word each. Each works for a 40-hour week for 47 weeks of the year, which amounts to 1880 hours each per annum. So each person works for 1880 hours annually. Got it? And the salaries they take are given below. Now this is what? This is labor cost. And in throughput, guys, these are assumed to be part of operating expenses, which means they are fixed in nature. So part of operating expense. Other hospital costs are rental cost. The amount of that is 2,50,000 per annum. Got it? 2,50,000 per annum is the rental cost. Any issues? Okay. Demand is given to you for each product. Now this is what? Time spent by each of the 5 different staff members on each product. This is just for your understanding. I'm using the word product. Procedure A, B, and C. The hours that each person is taking on 3 are given below. So these are basically hours per service that people are actually taking here. Got it, guys? I'm sure no problem. Okay. So now the most important thing which I told you was to find out the limiting factor. And you are lucky if it is given in the question. So let's find out. Yes, surgeon hours have been correctly identified as bottleneck. Now, surgeon is a limiting factor in the 5-step process. Are you getting my point? Which means here, step 4 is the limiting factor. Now, let me just give you a quick idea that what problem surgeon will create here. This is a 5-step process. Okay. Now, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. So patient goes through these 5-step process. This is where the most limiting factor exists, that is the surgeon. So surgeon is the limiting factor, my friend. Are you getting my point? Okay. Now, if surgeon is the limiting factor, then surgeon time would be considered as the biggest issue. Here is the limiting factor which stops the process, which slows the process in fact. And because of this, company cannot achieve the maximum profit. Getting my point? So this is the slowest process of all. This is the limiting factor. Now we'll deal with this process through throughput accounting ratio. We'll deal with this limiting factor. Got it, everyone? Okay. Let's go back to the question and see what is required in the question. Calculate throughput accounting ratio for procedure C only. Only. So you have to work for C only. You have to calculate throughput accounting ratio for C only. Okay, guys? So now let's work out the throughput accounting ratio for C only. So what I need to do, I need to work out TPAR, and as I mentioned, that numerator is throughput per hour divided by cost per hour. Okay? So if I want to work out throughput per hour, so what would be the way to do it? We have a formula here. And what is the formula? First, calculate throughput per unit. How will you do it? The selling price is 4250 minus the material cost, which is 1045 5.6. So the throughput per unit is 3199.4. Now let me show you these figures. 4250, 1045, 5.6. These are the only material cost. Okay, so you got throughput per unit here. Now, what you need to do? You need to divide this with limiting factor hours per unit. How much surgeon time is per procedure C? How much hours surgeon takes per procedure C? So let's have a look here. Surgeon is the limiting factor. So how much time surgeon takes for procedure C is 1.5. Got it, my dear management accountants? Okay. So let's take it 1.25 here. And the answer we'll get is per hour throughput. This is throughput per hour. The reason why we are dividing it with the limiting factor hours is, my dear friends, that the decision making will be done on the basis of the biggest limiting factor. Remember, in practical life as well, whenever you take a decision, you look at the most limiting factor. For example, if you are very near to your examination, are you with me, everyone? A quick yes from everyone, please. A quick yes. If you are near to your examination, friends, which topic you have to study will depend on the time it will take to study, because very close to the examination, time is the limiting factor. Time is the issue. So in that case, time would be considered as the limiting factor. Every decision would be taken on the basis of time it takes. So same is the case here. Hours is the limiting factor, so the decision will be taken on the basis of hours only. Got it? So you got it, throughput per hour, which is also known as return per hour, and that is 2559.25. And you got it here, 2559.52. Sorry, it's 52. Got it? Any issues, anyone? I'm sure you won't have any. Now this is the cost per hour that you have worked out. Now you have to work out this is the throughput per hour that you have worked out. Now you have to work out the cost per hour. So how will you? It's very simple. The cost is operating expenses, which includes three things. What? Labor, variable overheads, and fixed overheads. So my dear friends, do you have the operating expenses given in the question very clearly? Yes, it is. And where it is? The salaries of the employees is operating expense. So you add all, so you get the total operating expense salary part. What else will be 2,50,000 fixed other hospital cost? This will also be part of the operating expenses. Okay. So let's add all 45, 38, 75, 90 and 50 plus 250. Operating expenses 45 plus 38 plus 75 plus 90 plus 2,50,000 is all equal to 548,000. Got it? 548,000. Now you need to divide it by what? You need to divide it by limiting factor total hours. So limiting factor total hours. Which process out of the 5 is the most limiting factor identified by the question? Is this one surgeon, process 4. So the hours for surgeon are given or not? This is a big question. I need answers from you people. What hours I actually take for surgeon? Yes, please. Quick answers. What hours I actually take for surgeon? I need answers from you people. Quick. Be fast. Need more answers. Okay. More answers, more answers. Okay. Perfect. Now, let's go back to the question first and see what is given in the question. Friends, the question states, Yeah, someone asked me why I've included the recovery specialist. I think I have. Let me first check this, the calculation. Okay, sorry, I just missed out the 50,000 figure, but the total is okay. So let me just first add 50,000 recovery specialist cost. Okay, and this is actually 548 now. Got it? Okay, now the total hours of limiting factor. Now, dear friends, limiting factor is surgeon. These are the per unit hours of surgeon. Now, surgeon, like the other people, is part of the 5 members. Yes. And it says that each worker works 40 hours for 47 weeks of the year. So it is around 1880 hours each per annum. Did you got it? So every worker works for 1880 hours. Whether it's an advisor, whether it's nurse, whether it's recovery specialist, whether it's a surgeon. So each works for 1880 hours. We need the hours of just one, and that is surgeon. If everybody works for 1880 hours, so how much hours the surgeon works will be 1880 hours, which was clearly provided in the question. You didn't have to do anything relating to this. Did you got it, everyone? You have any issue as regard this point? So 1880 hours you will take for surgeon, because each works for 1880 hours, and surgeon also works for 1880 hours. Surgeon is the limiting factor. We were just required to find out the hours of surgeon, and that is 1880. So the cost per hour came 291.94. Return per hour is 255.52. Using these two, we can work out the throughput per hour, and that will be 8.78. Got it, everyone? This is throughput accounting ratio. Now, what it indicates and what decision you will take. So first, let's discuss what it indicates, and then the decision making will be done. First of all, it indicates what? It's very simple, like with like comparison, my dear friends. And what's that? The per hour return divided by the per hour cost. Now, if I give 1 hour to product C, so in that per hour, product C will earn a throughput or a return of 255.9.52. So the per hour return that product C will earn is 255.9.52. This is per hour return that C will earn. So if I assign 1 hour, listen very carefully. If I assign 1 hour to product C, so that 1 hour, on the basis of that 1 hour, C will earn a throughput of 255.9.52. And the per hour cost of that surgeon will be 291.49. So per hour cost is 291, fixed cost per hour is 291, and per hour return is 2559. So is the per hour return higher than the per hour cost? The answer is yes. The per hour return is higher than the per hour cost, which means the return is easily covering, the return per hour is easily covering the cost per hour. And if it is so, then the answer will always be more than one. More than one. And if it is the case that the answer is more than one, because the return is more than the cost per hour, then my dear management accountants, the decision will be what? The decision will be, let's have a look. If the answer is more than one, it is feasible to make the product. The product should be made. The product should be made. Because the return per hour is more than the cost per hour. And if the answer is less than 1, then it is not feasible to make, because less than 1 means the return would be lower than the cost per hour. So yes, the answer is well above 1, which is indicating that the product should be manufactured. So this is TPAR, which compares cost per hour with the return per hour. I'm sure you don't have any question here regarding the solution done. This was your first part to calculate the TPAR of 8.78. Done, everyone? Quickly, any questions? If you have. Yes, please. I haven't worked out 1880. It was given in the question, so there is no issue in that. 1880 were the hour of surgeon, because each works for 1880. Okay, so don't worry. It's the hours simply given in the question. Now, TPAR answer, if it is more than 1 or less than 1, then you have to decide. Okay, so it's not that how to calculate TPR less than 1 or more than 1. It's the decision criteria that if it is more than 1, you make the product. If it is less than 1, you do not make the product. Because we need to divide this by operating cost per hour. A question from Mohammed Naveed. Sorry, Junaid, your question is that why we are not taking. So we need to take operating expenses, because operating expenses are fixed in nature. Fixed in nature, okay? So whether you make one product, you make all the products, the cost will arise. I'll let you know about that, how we'll work out. Limited factor is surgeon. Okay, the variable cost is quite clearly mentioned here. That is the material cost, which is anesthesia, injection. These are the costs which are variable. Okay, Now, limiting factor was clearly defined in the question. We didn't have to in this question. We'll discuss if it is not mentioned, then how we'll identify it. But right now in this particular question, the limiting factor was very clearly mentioned here, and that was the surgeon's time. So we didn't had any issue. Okay, let me share the number here first because few people have to leave for the office. So you can contact me on my number, and that is 0321 2436 266. This is the number, or you can write it 92321 2436 266. Each and every one, just send me a message on WhatsApp. Okay, and then just send me today the message on WhatsApp, and then I can provide you more helpful things so that it makes easier for you. You can discuss your queries as well with me. So please just note down this and just send me the message today only, so that I can just make a group of that. Okay. Now, so this is how we work out throughput accounting ratio. So if the answer is more than 1, then what you have to do, you will make the product. If it is less than 1, you will not make the product. Okay. What it compares cost per hour with return per hour, and on the basis of that, the decision is being taken. Is this clear, everyone? Surgeon is the limiting factor. Every working will be done on the basis of surgeon, because surgeon is the limiting factor. So this is how throughput deals with limiting factor. Whatever the limiting factor is, the calculation will be done on the basis of that. This is the WhatsApp group. Please just WhatsApp me, everyone, once you get this number. Okay. Now, the cost is less, return is more. It is feasible to make the product. This was the first part of the question that we have solved right now. Okay, Mohammed Usman, it's very simple. My friend, what you have to do is just focus on the limiting factor total hours. So if you look here, surgeon is the limiting factor, and how many hours surgeon works. So this was mentioned very clearly in the question. That each person works for this much hours. So it is very clear that if each person works for this much hours, then how many hours the surgeon works for is 1880. Lot of questions are coming here that if it is not mentioned, then what we have to do. Don't worry, you just send me the message on the WhatsApp group, and I will be today after the webinar, I will let you know the question that you should solve before the tomorrow's class, and then I'll explain you in the tomorrow's class how we can deal with a question in which limiting factor is not given. So just send me the message. I'll let you know the question name with the past paper exactly, so that you can find it very easily. You just work out in the homework, then I explain you how we have to find the limiting factor in that particular question. Okay. Now, are we ready for extra time for 15 or 20 minutes? If you guys are okay, then will I go for it? So quick yes from people. If people are willing that I should take 15 minutes more so that I can complete this particular question. Your consent is important. More people, please. More people. Okay, thank you very much. So let's carry on. Those who are not part of it right now are going, so you can see on the video lecture as well. Plus you can contact me on the group as well. So make sure you send me your numbers. Now, what is the second requirement here? The second requirement is The throughput accounting ratio for A and B has also been calculated, that is 8.96 and 9.11. So they have already calculated the throughput accounting ratios for the other two products, that you do not have to do it. Okay. Plus, they've also mentioned that return per factory hour for A and B has been calculated and is this and this. What is return per factory hour, guys? Return per factory hour is basically throughput per hour. Are you with me? It's the throughput per hour which they have already calculated here as well. Okay. They are asking for calculate the optimum production mix and the maximum profit per annum. Optimum production mix and the maximum profit per annum. Now this second requirement is something which is asked in throughput by the examiner other than throughput accounting ratio. Optimum production mix means what? How many units of each product should be developed? Remember, how many units of each product needs to be developed. This is optimum production mix. Getting my point? Now let's go back to the slides and have a look here. The second type of calculation that comes in the examination is optimum production mix. This is known as multi-product decision making as well. So what you have to do? Calculate the throughput per unit. Calculate the throughput per hour. Okay. Rank and optimum production plan. Got it? So throughput per limiting factor you can use here. You can rank and then make a production plan. So these are the steps to follow. When devising an optimum production plan, these are the steps that you need to follow. Got it? Throughput per unit, throughput per hour, rank, and devise an optimum production plan. Are you with me? Okay. Now, how to do it in this particular question? Because it required for optimum production mix, so we have to do the same thing. We have to tell how many units we'll produce here for A, B, and C. Now, I don't have to calculate throughput per unit for the remaining two products because I have already been given. You can see here, you are already provided with this. Throughput per hour is already given to you here. So you don't have to work out that. You can rank on the basis of this. Are you getting my point? You do not have to calculate throughput per hour because it is already given here. So I'll use the figures given in the question. Any problem, anyone? No problem. So let's work out. A, B, C. Throughput per hour. Throughput per hour. For A, it's 2612.53 given in the question. For B, it's 2654.4 given in the question. For C, it's 2559.52. This is what we worked out for C. For C, we worked out right now, and this was the throughput accounting ratio for C. Remember? Okay. So throughput per hour we already have. Now what we need to do, we need to rank. Whichever product is generating higher throughput per hour. Whichever product is generating higher throughput per hour, we'll go for that product. So the per hour return of A is, B is, C is in front of you. So in ranking, we'll go first for B, then for A, and then for C. This is the ranking that you are doing right now. first for B, second for A, third for C. Because guys, the problem is that we have a shortage of hours, right? So we need to see which best product you have to assign the hours first. So the decision is simple. The one that generates higher return will be ranked first. So ranking has been done. Now the plan on the basis of ranking. So products, B first, A then, C third. Okay. Now let's see what is the demand for each given in the question. So the question says the demand is 600, 800, 1200. 600, 800 and 1200. So for B it's 800. For A it's 600. For C it's 1200. Got it, everyone? Now let's see how many hours are required hours. So let's multiply these. B requires per unit hour of 1, A 0.75 and C 1.25. Okay. So 800 hours are required by A. If you multiply with 0.75, so 450 hours are required by A. For C, if you multiply by 1.25, so you require 1500 hours. So do you have these hours available? No. So because the total hours are 2750. You don't have 2750 right now. So let's now see the hours available to us. Available hours are 1880 hours of surgeon. This is the limiting factor. 1880 hours of surgeon. Okay. So let's allocate the hours first. First, we'll give 800 hours to B, 450 hours to A. So what is the leftover? 1880 minus 800 minus 450. The hours remaining are 630, which will be given to C. 630. Getting my point, everyone? Okay. On the basis of these hours available, we can calculate the number of services that we can offer. Okay, let's calculate that number. How many B will be performed? 800, because it requires 800 hours. We are giving 800 hours, so the demand will be fulfilled 800 hours. How many A? 450 hours are required. We are giving 450 hours, so 600 demand will be fulfilled. But for C, it requires 1500, but we can only give 630. So let's divide. If 630 hours are available, one C requires 1.25 hours. One C requires 1.25 hours. 630 divided by 1.25 makes 504 number of procedures that we can perform. So friends, this is known as optimum production mix. That 800B, 600A and 504C. Are you with me, everyone? Getting my point? So this is how you need to work out it. Now, what else was required in the question? Production mix and the maximum profit. Mix we worked out. Mix is this. This is mix. Now the profit. We need to work out the profit. So how will we? Let's multiply these numbers with throughput per unit. So what is the throughput per unit? We can work using the question throughput per unit. I'm doing the calculation of throughput per unit, so I'm sure you won't have any problem. Just have a good look. I'm just calculating throughput per unit for each product. And that's very easy to work out. It's selling price minus the material cost, okay? Are you all listening? For B, let's calculate the throughput per unit. 3500 selling price. Just listen to what I'm saying. Come to the question and see. 800 is the material cost for injections. 40 is also, 5.6 is also the cost. So the B cost per unit is throughput per unit. Sorry, B throughput per unit is 2654.4. Okay. What about A? 2700 selling price, 735 minus 5.6. A throughput per unit is 1959.4. Getting my point? And for C, we have already worked out here. And that was 31994. 31994. Is this clear, everyone? So if I multiply the numbers with the throughput per unit, and if I add all three, I will get total throughput on these three products. If I add all, so I'll get total throughput on these three products. These are throughput per unit, okay? So the total throughput that will come will be 491,656.1. You can check the answers as well. Okay, guys. Is this all clear? So this is the total throughput I'll get here. Total throughput. I'm sure you have understand the workings of throughput per unit. It's selling price minus the material cost. Okay. Now the profit time. Let's minus operating expenses because these are of fixed nature. And we know what is the operating expense here. That is 548,000 we worked out in the first part. So the answer of profit will be 4363656.1 will be the profit. Is this clear, guys? Done. Total throughput minus the operating expense will give you the profit. Now, we have covered both the calculations that can come in the exam. Throughput per hour divided by cost per hour is TPAR. If the answer is more than 1, it indicates that return is more than the cost. We should make it. The second calculation would be optimum production mix. The numbers that you need to produce or give the service based on the hours available. You have worked out that as well. Plus you have worked out the total throughput and the profit as well. Is this all clear to every one of you? Done, everyone? So I think we are done with this calculation as well. And now it's time for a few questions if you want to ask, so that I can just quickly answer you. Okay, is everything perfect? Okay, now you can contact me on WhatsApp, and let me repeat the number again. Below, it's 321-243-6266-92. Okay, so this is the number. Just WhatsApp me for all the queries. I'll update you for the further plan as well. And tomorrow we will be starting with, we'll complete the important things of throughput. I'll also WhatsApp you the question that you should do, and then we will be covering the further topics in the tomorrow's class. Today, 45 minutes I took for the introduction. That's why we are not able to complete this topic, but I will be covering this topic in the tomorrow's class. Be with me for the 5 days, and I hope it will help you a lot. And I'll try my best to help you out. Okay, one last question. You could not get what is 4.1. Now this is the profit figure. This is the total throughput figure. Okay, and I worked out this by multiplying the numbers with the throughput per unit. These are throughput per unit. So if you multiply and add all, so you'll get the total throughput from all 3 products. Okay, total throughput from all 3 products. Once you deduct the cost, you get the profit. Okay, so dear management accountants, I hope today's session would have helped you a lot, and I'll try my best to be the best support for you people. Have a nice day. See you soon tomorrow with new topics, new information, and new concepts. Ima, what figure you are talking about? Yeah, this will be available in the recordings as well. Tomorrow timings are same 10 to 1 Pakistan time. Okay, you don't understand the last column. Okay, let me explain you. The last column is basically throughput per unit. This is throughput per unit. Per unit throughput we have worked out, and that we can work out through selling price minus material cost. So this is throughput per unit, the last column, which you multiply with the number of units to get total throughput, and you add all, you get the total throughput answer here. Okay, so this is the throughput per unit. Done, everyone? Yeah, I will solve this. B is the same as the return. What B you're talking about? Okay, so I think further you can discuss your problems. Section B of past paper means scenario-based MCQs. Okay, so thank you very much for the today's session. See you soon. What all problems you have, just write it down. We'll clarify in the tomorrow's session. Bye.